So you've got to be able to understand how to speak to and explain all the details in the language that the people you're talking to understand it. So management and the guys up above, they don't want to hear the nuts and bolts of anything. They want to hear what we're going to do to protect it and how to take care of them.
Welcome to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walthers. Let's dive in. All right, so thank you everybody for joining this episode of the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Today we have the wonderful Jim Bradfield here, the CEO of NAS Wireless, and we're going to pick his brain today about NAS Wireless, how that company came to be, the inspiration behind it, the growth journey that Jim and his team have undertaken, and just learn a bit about what NAS Wireless has to offer, how your guys' journey has been from beginning to now. So thank you, Jim, so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here. I'd love if you could just right out the gate introduce yourself and chat a little bit about the origin of NAS Wireless and how the creation of this company really looked for you and what was the inspiration behind it, and just walk us through kind of that origin story piece.
Sure. The origin story started in 1897, not with me, but with my family. My great uncle was part of Marconi Radio, and he developed the radios that went on the Titanic and that were used for all the ships for the White Star Lines and all that kind of thing. So we've had a long history of wireless networking and wireless within the family. And so we just naturally I've taken over after, it's been a while, right? I've been around since 95 in this business. And my dad was at Illinois Bell, and he was a lineman and then became wire chief and a bunch of other things, and fascinated me because he had a cell phone in his car in 1959. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Wireless is a big deal. Let's go for it. Well, it took me a while. I went to AT&T, and then things didn't work out as well as I had hoped there. And so I left and started my own company, and we started doing things like serving AT&T's last mile customers, which means that all the farms and all the small businesses and everything that were out in the middle of nowhere had to have service. And how did they get service? Well, you couldn't pull an AT&T line out there, so you put wireless in. So that's kind of what we started doing. And people heard about us. And then AT&T said, hey, we've got some big projects. We'd like you to work with NASA over at Sunnyvale Training Center and help them with their suits. And we'd like you to work with some other people that had cattle and things like that to figure out how to actually track the cattle. So we communications that go in the spacesuits for NASA, and we developed the communications from Edwards Air Force Base that helped them figure out the landing gear to fix the landing gear for that. We helped a bunch of work on the space station. We did a bunch of work for Lockheed Martin for the weigh in motion stations all across the country, and put in all those things. Now that you see those big antennas out on the road and all the trucks pulling off, things like that, that's our stuff. And then we figured out how to do the cattle tagging, RFID tagging for cattle over wireless networking. So now that's where you see for all the cattle lots all across the world. You see our design and results of everything we've done. And we do work now with automation and just about everything with factories and healthcare and plants and just about anything that involves wireless and automation and emerging technologies.
First of all, wow, that's so cool. The history and kind of legacy that your family has in the wireless space is very epic. And all of the applications of, spaceships, spacesuits, landing gear, cattle, the applications are so expansive. That's really awesome, because it really, I think, complicates people's understanding of wireless services and stuff like that. I think a lot of people immediately go, Wi-Fi, LAN type wireless connections and stuff like that. And you're like, open your mind. So much more than that. It touches on so many different things. That's very cool. The cattle piece is very interesting. So our agency is headquartered in High River, Alberta. And so that's southern Alberta. It's a very rural, farmy area. And so a lot of some of the companies we've worked for before are in the agriculture space and looking into agricultural technology and stuff like that. So that is very cool to hear that that's something that you guys touched on and worked on. That's very cool. So who would you say, it sounds like since you guys have been in operation for so long and had a lot of success in different verticals, it sounds like your typical customer or client has probably changed a lot, obviously, over the course of the years. So what is your typical client now? And how do you think that's changed over time?
Initially, we thought that our clients were the farms and the small little rural areas and things like that, guys wanted to have a connection to their farm. And they said, oh, look, you hooked us up with Wi-Fi. Oh, whoa, wow, that's awesome. Oh, okay, so that was cool and all, but we started going bigger and bigger and bigger. And so when we did all the cattle, for example, we worked with ConAgra and Harris Ranch. So these are big cattle producing places, right? There are millions and millions of acres of cattle and hundreds of thousands of cattle. And so they used to have this big old thing in their ear, and now they have these tiny little chips that get stapled in their ear, or they get put underneath their skin or whatever. And that it's kind of the same thing that's happened now for animals tracking. You get a dog or something, like you put a little shot in there and they get a little tracker. Same kind of thing. You can kind of do that with a kid now. You can wrap them up like at Disney. They put a little bracelet on them and things so they don't get
put
lost.
It in their shoe, send them on their way. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily put that underneath their skin, but you still put a little bracelet on them so they can be found. Right?
Definitely. And is that the same, when they're tracking endangered species and stuff like that, or sharks for like mating patterns and migration patterns and stuff like that? Similar technology there as well, hey?
Yeah, just a little staple into their fin kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And that's how they track them. They do a GPS tracker. They do just a health and wellness check and all kinds of things. That's what they were doing in the spacesuits. You check on the health and wellness of the guy.
So it's similar technology applied a bunch of different ways depending on the needs.
Yeah, you have to just open your mind, and there's no limitation to any technology. You can apply almost anything to almost anything. So
that's
pretty
very
amazing.
Cool. It's interesting the piece that you mentioned about seeing kind of a health score out of that technology, like beyond tracking, it can give you information about the well-being of the subject, how they're doing, that kind of thing. That's very massive implications for, I know you mentioned that you had some clients in the medical field previously too. I can see the connection between all of the different clients that you've had unified by the application of this technology. That's very cool. So let's see here. So I know you mentioned that the company has been in existence for a lot of years and it's been in your family for generations. So what I'm curious to hear is, from your experience leading the company and being in the CEO position, what did you change? What are the biggest things that you changed when you were in that leadership position? And what was the motivation behind that? What were some legacy things that were in place that you were like, you know what? We need to update the way we're doing these things. We need to focus on, these pieces instead. And how did that change when kind of you got your hands on the reins?
Really, the way it changed is that we were initially just working with one customer. So we would work with one group, one person, and try to wait for them to do something. And then we looked at the bigger picture of things and said, well, you know what? We can do this all around the world for every kind of application. So then we started going after bigger and bigger clientele and bigger opportunities and larger areas. We used to drive everywhere. So we only went to where we could drive to, right? That's maybe 8 or 10 hours drive. Well, now we work in 37 countries and all 50 states and various other areas that are not necessarily places you would really want to go to. They're war zones and things like that. So we work in those kind of areas, and we work protecting U.S. assets for surveillance systems and for their IoT systems for monitoring everything. And we help them design their networking. We're working right now with a major car manufacturer, auto manufacturer, actually, not just cars. They make trucks as well. And we're working worldwide with them, but right now all throughout the U.S. to help them automate their plants and update their facilities for wireless and networking. So I
Gotcha.
mean, and we do that. We do that for just about anything. So once we find an area where we feel comfortable, we go to various different manufacturers and different companies and apply the same kind of skill set to those people. And once our guys understand it and they understand the project and understand the customer requirements, which is a really big deal, then we actually are pretty good about developing a scope of work and developing the application and helping them improve.
So really, a big change that you made was diversifying and expanding the type of customer that you're going after and the volume of customers that you're going after and projects that you take on. So it sounds now, just based on what you've shared, that, since you're in the custom solution space, there isn't a lot that you can't do, or there's not a lot of types of companies that you can't work with. But is there a specific, do you have a specific ideal customer profile right now? Or is it more based on, if they have a need that you can meet, then that's all that really matters?
Typically, we'll do the latter. If somebody has something that they need some help with, we'll typically work with them, even if they're a small company. We usually don't work with a lot of small companies just because they don't really have much of an application. And the only other issue is they don't have enough money to typically do it correctly. So we'll work with them. We'll do as much as we can with them to get them on the right path. But they're usually limited in terms of personnel and available resources. So we usually go with multinational companies and at least multi-state companies, things that are pretty big. We'll work with an Amazon, for example, or we'll work with a Hyundai, for example, and, and a healthcare organization, that kind of thing. So when we work with airports, we run airport networks. So we run the O'Hare Airport Network right now. So all of the networks for O'Hare Airport, we put them in, we monitor them, we keep them going, we configure them, and we run the networks.
Wow. Yeah. Huge client size. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so what does your team look like now? How big is your team?
That's a good question. That varies. The team is, what we do is we get guys, I say guys, that's not a very good statement these days. We get people who are really well informed and understand a lot of different technologies. So, for example, if you are a person who knows an Informix database, I'm going to keep your notes and keep you on the pad, right? And so what's going to happen is a customer is going to eventually come through and say, hey, you know what? We need this. It's a very strange question, but we can do that because I've got a person that can do this, right? And so we have an entire group of people that we all work together. Sometimes we work on their projects and other times they work on our projects. It's a very symbiotic relationship and it works out really well that way. You want to be able to have the best bench for what you're trying to do and the best persons and people who understand and how to work together as a team.
Yeah. So you've built your staffing model basically to be able to quickly scale, having the subject matter experts readily available to you so that when you get a unique project that maybe the week before you didn't have these folks activated, but you get something specific tailored to these people's needs. You have your, Rolodex of talent there ready to be activated and well connected so that you can easily scale depending on the type of project that comes up. So
that's right.
That's great. Okay, cool. Yeah, that seems like the way to do it. Like for our team specifically too, like we utilize a pretty robust network of contractors. So, if things come in and our work explodes and we're like, now we have all of these projects, we have that scalability built in. So no, that's great to hear. And so what I'd be curious about is, I'll speak just in terms of with regards to the duration of time that you've been in the CEO seat. What have been kind of growth milestones that you've hit over your time in the CEO chair, and what do you think was the key to being able to achieve those goals and hit those milestones?
Yes, that's a really good question. We have seen, what we've seen is a huge growth in the applications, as I said, not just applying wireless to homes or for internet or something like that, but to apply that to automation. So you can run robotics within a plant or a warehouse. You actually connect to that through the wireless device. So you don't have to have a guy running around, somebody running around or making sure that guy goes to the right place. You also we're also seeing a lot of application for running power over the wireless and all of that kind of thing. So now we're seeing that you don't need to have expensive batteries or expensive downtime or expensive repairs and all of that. We're seeing that things are almost completely automated. So we're working with the customers to help them train their people to be able to use these systems and understand the systems that they're actually using. And so that they have several monitors. It's like it's kind of like if you have an emergency response system or something like that, with a bunch of screens and a bunch of people looking at it. Well, that's the kind of thing that's going on now. And so we're training those people and actually helping them design all that. And the other issue, the bigger issue, is with security, because people are getting hacked pretty badly. So security is becoming a very, very big deal. And we're helping them understand and train on security, so they don't get hacked from outside, and so that all their stuff is secure.
Yeah, cybersecurity implications to being a big piece of that, especially when you have these wireless systems doing so many jobs and touching so many pieces. Yeah, definitely. And so, so do you think that what has led you to be so successful in kind of how holistic your approach to these types of customers is? Do you think that treating or tackling the project or kind of conceptualizing the project to include all of those pieces such as cybersecurity and power and automation and stuff like that, do you think that kind of shift in offer and shift in mindset from, top down has led to achieving those milestones and achieving that growth?
Yes. Because if you're stuck on one single application, you don't have a whole lot of going for it. You may be able to sell a whole bunch of stuff to one person, one place, but you're not going to be able to go global. You're not going to be able to explain it to their entire program, all of their management and all that. So you've got to be able to understand how to speak to and explain all the details in the language that the people you're talking to understand it. So management and the guys up above, they don't want to hear a bunch of bits and bytes and bolts and things. They don't want to hear the nuts and bolts of anything. They want to hear what we're going to do to protect it and how to take care of them. The guys in the middle want to know, because they're being rated on, their ROI in terms of are they becoming more and more efficient? And yeah, we can make that happen for them. And then on the lower end, we let those guys know that the training and the things that we're going to give them allows them to be smarter in terms of overall knowledge and especially expertise in technology. And then they can get better and better jobs as they go along. So we go from top down. We work with, every single group within the company, the customer.
Yeah, that's very interesting because most of the time I feel like folks, and this isn't just for wireless and tech companies, but really any company, you find the level or the person that is the person you're going to be liaising with, and that's kind of it. But there's immense value to be had being able to connect to folks at various different places in the company, especially when your offering has so many applications and can be used in so many different ways. So yeah, very, very cool. And so I know we touched on this a little bit with regards to your network of professionals that you're able to kind of call on when your funnel fills up and stuff like that. Beyond that, on the business side of things, less on the tech side of things, what are other strategies that you found effective to kind of scale up as the work comes in and as the growth,
it's a really good thing. One of the things that we found is that getting paid is kind of a bummer sometimes from not the customers, but from the people you're working with. Could be customers. Some of them pay at net 90, some pay at net 120, some don't pay at all. Some pay you ACH, some pay you a check, some say that, it's coming from India via, Pony Express, or there are some major issues. You have to go in with your eyes wide open on that. You're going to eventually get paid, but you have to make sure that you've got resources and everything set up and ready to go. So we do a pretty good job with the finance guys as well. So we work with financial people to help us. We don't factor receivables, but what we do is we make sure that if we need to get capital, that we have areas where we can get capital and leverage our team against that capital. So when it comes in, obviously we pay it. We don't want to just leave it sitting out there and say, look at all the money I got. That's not how it works, right? So you just take whatever you need to get it going. A lot of people, they don't understand that. They don't have access to it, and it puts them out of business. They can't do it, and they mortgage their home and they sell their car. Well, that's a sad thing when that kind of thing happens. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to do the finance thing just like you do on the business side. But just think of it in terms of a business, right? That's the same thing you're doing. So you make sure that you've got that kind of thing behind you and everything's set up. And then you understand where you are and what your outgo can be before you know you're in need.
So really making sure that you're not tied to that individual payment, and that the entire success of the project doesn't exist only if that payment comes in the way that you expect it to at the time that you expect it to, and stuff like that. So
right.
yeah,
And you also need to let your guys know, your personnel. I keep saying guys, I'm sorry about that. But
no, guys I like guys, don't worry. The guys term works for everybody.
One of my friends gave me a hard time about saying guys. I just say guys because even the girls team, I say, hey guys, let's go.
Oh yeah, I think guys applies to everyone. Guys is a neutral term.
But you've got to make sure that the personnel that are working with you all the way down the line understand what you're doing and where you are, and when they have to apply pressure to make things happen quicker and make it happen more effectively and more efficiently. That's the big problem. They usually are used to, oh, well, I made my 75 an hour doing this, and I take 40 coffee breaks and I do whatever. And we can't have that. We have to have guys who are willing to skill. So they scale up in their skill set. And they also work on understanding the business aspect of it. And I try to train them a little bit on it and make sure that everybody really understands what's at stake. So they're all pretty much a stakeholder in what's going on. That way everybody knows, hey, this has to be wound up. This is a problem. We can't let this go on. Now, but at the same time, we do whatever the customer needs to have done to a limit. We're not going to start over and redo everything unless we have an understanding as to what's being paid for and what's being done. But we do make sure that the customer really understands, and we go the extra mile for all those guys. We do anything that they really need, to a reasonable extent.
And so what has made you effective at getting that buy-in from your staff and having them kind of have that level of passion for the outcome beyond just, their own paycheck and stuff like that? What do you think?
They know that there's an opportunity down the road for them to expand and increase their pay. We don't just have a minimum wage that we look at the minimum wage chart and go, okay, 1975 here, 1412 here, that kind of thing. We don't do that. We pay the guys according to what their skill set is and what they can be doing. And we give them a raise as they get more and more skilled and more training and more under their belt. So they have an opportunity to pretty much go to the moon. It's actually pretty cool. If they want to do something more, then we offer them the training, and we offer them, on the wireless. Every manufacturer has training. Every camera surveillance type of product has training. Just about everything. Every security group has training. So we offer them just about anything that you can imagine. And we actually insist that they understand and go through the training, which really helps them understand what we're doing. And it gives them a better perspective as to what we're facing, trying to get the customers to understand what's happening.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've effectively just removed the ceiling internally for your staff, and you're like, you can learn as much as there is to learn, and you can make as much as there is to make with us. And that is not usually the case. So I think that's probably motivating more than anything.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
If you're staying in one spot and you're able to have access to all of this specialized training and the support of yourself, and why would anyone leave? Yeah, I think that's a huge piece, is kind of having that sky's the limit built in to how you are running things operationally. That's huge. For sure. And so right now, what does the client acquisition look like for you? Where are you finding new clients? How do they come to you? Are you doing anything formally? Is it word of mouth? What does that piece look like for you guys right now?
Well, that's another good question, and that's a really difficult one to answer for most people. We've tried different things. We've tried advertising, radio, TV, you name it, magazines, etc. What we do now is we work on mostly on LinkedIn and that kind of platform, which is a business platform. And so what we do is we'll develop. I have a guy that works for me who's a young Peruvian guy, and he's really, really good. He makes videos and explainer videos and short 1 and 2 minute and 30-second videos to explain some things that we're doing. And we also go on, I have a TV show, and we go on different podcasts and different shows, and we let people review it. And so what happens is anybody that's looking at our company wants to find something simple for them to review the company and the capabilities of the company. It's not necessarily generating a whole lot of new customers as much as it is generating customer understanding of who are they looking at? Are we really inclined to be able to do this work? Do we really have the skill set? Yeah, we do. And we talk about it, and we have it all over our LinkedIn and all over our website and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that reinforces things based on experience. So there's hardly anything better than experiential background and
Truly, yeah. And having that authority built in the market too. And I think what you're describing too, like having those targeted LinkedIn content and various other social media content too, really builds market awareness for what you guys are doing, which I think is huge, especially when there's so much that you guys can do. Sometimes I feel like that generates a different problem where, folks come visit your site or see your stuff on LinkedIn and then go, it's hard to tell what they do because they just do everything. And so having those educational videos, yeah, that's super smart. And so you mentioned that while not necessarily directly generating customers, and hot leads for you, it still does that good work by making sure that everyone who visits your LinkedIn, visits your website, knows what the heck is going on and knows what you guys are about and what you do and stuff like that.
Yeah, it reinforces our capabilities and background so that they can understand what we've done and larger opportunities and things like that. And that's one of the things. New customers, a lot of times they go, hey, do you have 3 references? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I could make them up and give them to you, but why don't you look at our website and our LinkedIn, and here's the background, and here are the things that we've done. Take a look at those kind of things, and then it'll give you a bit more opportunity to figure it out.
So with all of that, web development and LinkedIn and stuff like that, I would say that you're now finding that your, new leads and new customers are coming in just kind of naturally through those channels, through finding your website and stuff like that. So you're not doing any targeted cold outreach or anything like that, more just...
We are. We're doing things like with Zoom Info and Apollo and all those kind of things like everybody else does. But that's more just to keep in front of people and do all that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
The cold calling we do now is reference cold calling. We get referrals, and we'll get that from a customer. And we also work for very large companies like the Fortune 30, 40, 50 companies who have extremely large customers. And we'll get referrals to their sales team and their guys and make sure that they understand what we can do. And we'll give presentations on it and backgrounds and all that kind of thing. So they actually are able to figure out, yeah, these guys can really do just about anything we need. And then they call us up and ask us, or they email us and say, what do you have? What can you do? And it works really well.
Yeah. And as you guys continue to grow and scale, do you have any plans, or do you foresee a need to kind of diversify your lead generation and how those processes look? Or is it really consistent right now and you're like, we like the level it's at, it's allowing us to grow at a steady, scalable pace, we're all happy? Or are you like, once we get a few more deals closed, it would be super nice to be able to, do more outreach or expand this way, or what does that look like right now?
Yeah, we have about a year's worth of business booked up ahead. And so if we want to move that up we can by just adding some additional people. But we don't just willy-nilly throw people at the project, because you hear horror stories all the time. They bring in people who are dressed in shorts, working in a hospital. Guys who are standing on the ladder talking real loud on their cell phone and cussing it about how badly they're getting paid. I mean, you hear that all the time. And so we avoid that like the plague. We just, will it happen? Yeah, probably someday. Somebody will do something stupid and say something dumb. I mean, that's just human nature. But, as it goes, we don't expect that kind of thing to happen. And typically we're, knock on wood, don't have it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeping a certain type of person kind of to keep that that consistent quality.
That's right.
Yeah. And so do you try to keep a lot of, not obviously on the tech side, keeping all of that in-house. Do you guys try to keep to all of your business development, business growth activities and staff in-house as well, so that you can kind of have that quality control? Or do you typically like to utilize external experts for that? I'm just curious because I think that there's an argument to be made that both could lead to a successful, having good people working on the right stuff. And so I think most people have an argument for either side. And so I'm curious what side of the coin you land on.
Well, on the personnel side, we get referrals. I don't go sending out ads for people because people lie about their background, or the people who are pushing them lie about their background or whatever. So I get referrals for that. Same thing with customers. We don't just run in and promise the world. One of the biggest problems I think when a company's trying to scale up is they use RFPs, requests for proposals. And I think that's a real problem because they want the lowest bidder and they want you to cut your margin down to nothing, and you have nothing backing up in case anything happens, and that's really a problem. And so we try to use the people that we work with to refer us to these clients, or we work directly for them, for their clients, which is even better. Because they find them and we don't have to, and I don't have to worry about closing them. But if we do, it sometimes takes 2 and 3 weeks to get onboarded, but we hardly do any RFP work at all, just because there's just not margin in it, and you can't really develop the scope very far, and there's no additional work that you can get from that without.
Yeah. And you're right, you often have to undersell yourself and cut your rates and all this stuff. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So looking to the future, what is the next clear growth goal that you have on your horizon? What is the next milestone that you're looking to achieve? And what does that time frame look like? And kind of what's your game plan for getting there?
Well, it's to do what we're doing now, which is we're getting referrals more and more. And I'm working on the referral system from these really large companies who are referring us to their clientele and to their sales and technical people. So I'm working with those kind of guys to really push to get in with them on their projects. So, it's a really tough thing because you've got to make everybody happy, and you can't. You just can't make everybody happy, right? You've got to do the best you can to satisfy them and do whatever you can to make sure you're still in business after you get the project done. You can't kill yourself and kill your company and your people. They'll all quit and you won't have anything left. So the referral kind of thing is really a big deal. I can't really do cold calling and things. I'm not going to do that, and the guys aren't going to do that. And so, again, referrals from our present clients and past clients and the guys that are the big guys, we can work for them and be their team. And we will have their business card and our logo and their emails and whatever else. We don't. I'm not proud. I don't care. As long as we get paid, it's good enough.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All right. And then the last thing I'd love to chat with about is you mentioned that you have featured on other podcasts and you have a TV show.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious if you could speak a bit to that and what kind of stuff folks could find on your TV show, what it's called, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the TV show that I've been working with is called Tech Talk. And another TV show that I've been working with is called Biz Talk, B-I-Z Talk. And they are basically 12 or 15 minute segments of talk TV about whatever we want to talk about, something that we bring up and whatever to do. Now, The other thing that we're working on right now is called Emerging Technology, and it's my own company, my own show. It's out of Houston, but we are broadcasting from Palm Springs, which is where we are now. And we work also in Georgia and lots of places in studios there. But it's a technology show about emerging technologies. So things that are coming up that's going to change our outlook and the way we do business. Like I said, the factory automation and things like that, that's a really big deal. It's hard for people to understand, but no longer do you need a whole bunch of people standing in line for a day job to come in and run, and pick things off of shelves and whatever. Now you need pretty well trained people to make the robots and those kind of things do that work and understand what's happening. So that's the kind of thing that we're working with in the shows, about what technology is making changes to the way life is and the way we do business.
Very cool, very topical, very relevant right now. Relevant always, but extra relevant right now. Very cool. And I feel like that's a perfect vertical to go after, talking about new technology that's coming down the pipe, right, that everyone has 1,000 questions about and doesn't understand fully. And I think too, a lot of people have a hard time, I think, understanding how technological advancements are going to impact their day-to-day life and change the way that, they go through the world. So I will definitely be checking that out. That's very cool. And so thank you for speaking to that. And is it is it on like network TV? Is it online? It's everywhere.
So what's going to be happening, and the show actually, the national show actually debuts the first part of June, let's say. It comes out on Saturdays. It's every week on Saturdays, but it's on Spotify, it's on Roku, it's on 150 TV stations across the country. It's the studios are Now Media. So they're out of Houston and Mexico. And so pretty much, it's broadcasted everywhere on just about every media. You can see it on our posts on LinkedIn, and you can see it on YouTube or whatever, but we don't advertise it on YouTube. And the YouTube stuff is just where everything is kept. We don't really advertise that channel. It's our private channel.
Yeah, gotcha. Sweet. Wow. Well, congratulations. That's very awesome. And I will definitely be checking it out to see, because I think that is perfect for us and even complementary to what we talk about on this podcast. So very great. All right. So we're heading towards the end here. So I will just open it up to you, Jim. Is there anything else that you would love to talk about? Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think would be critical to speak to? Is there anything else you'd like to say to the listeners here?
Sure. So especially for younger people coming up, it's one of those things where younger people come up from having played soccer and having played baseball or football or whatever in track, and men or women, it doesn't matter, and they're very, very competitive, and they're used to being the main person in something, and they're the go-to person typically, and they want to be the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. What you want to know is who that smartest person is going to be in the room. And you bring that person into the room, right? So you make sure that who you have a bench full of players who are the best, and sit back and let them do their job. Now you have to make sure that you tell them what they're doing, and you make sure that you develop the good scope of work and the understanding of what's happening, but let them go. Don't be the roadblock, because that is really typically what happens. People are a roadblock, and it's just an enormous failure for them. You can't get things done. The other thing that I always say is just never give up. Follow your dream. Never give up. If you've got a good idea, ruminate on it. Think about it. Take 10,000 steps. Go out and walk. Think about it. Let your mind think about things. Look at the trees and the birds and the kids playing soccer and do whatever. And think about if the thoughts come to you about what your next steps are and what you can do. Just never give up.
I love that. Get out of your own way. Never give up.
Right.
And that's the theme. That's the theme for today's episode. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate your time here. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and chatting with us and hanging out with us today. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.